Oscar winner George Clooney making his Broadway debut this spring in Good Night and Good Luck. It's a stage adaptation of the film of the same name, but this time Clooney's playing Edward R. Murrow. Let's send it out to Paul Wontorek.
This is Gallagher's. This is like a classic.
It's pretty great, isn't it?
Theater haunt.
Yeah.
I mean, you can almost picture the characters.
Actually,
You think they were here? I mean, you think
probably
these
are
guys
in the corner over there. Yeah, this is a good hang right here. We might just stay here all afternoon.
At that time would have been what? Filled with smoke. Mm-hmm. This would have been scotch.
Yeah,
right?
we're doing the play. We're trying to bring smoking back. That's our goal in life.
That's the whole point of the show, right?
Whole plan.
It sounds like you're going to be puffing a lot of herbal cigarettes. I mean, that's part of the gig, right?
It's brutal. I've actually had to practice smoking. Not great. That's part of your rehearsal.
That's part of your rehearsal.
It's going to be rough.
But even in your film, it's just constant.
We used pipe smoke then because it was really thick and it stayed in the air. So who knows what we're going to do now?
What about the smoking? Edward Murrow smoked like 3 packs a day, apparently.
Yeah.
A lot of herbal cigarettes backstage.
Yeah. A lot of herbal cigarettes because these people all smoked themselves to death. Yeah. And that's what it was. And it's a bunch of old white guys, and they all smoked and drank. You know what I mean? That's the reality. It is wrong to pretend. It is another kind of wrong to pretend this isn't what the world is like. We're making theatrical gestures to augment the amount of smoke. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're planning on having little foggers in the desks. You know what I mean? There's going to be theatrical haze hanging in the lamplight. Will give the impression of a lot more smoking than we might actually be doing.
I didn't expect you to come to Broadway. I'm excited.
Well, I didn't expect to come to Broadway. I kind of thought that ship sailed way back in the day. I'm very nervous about this.
Yeah?
Sure. I mean, it's late in life to be doing your Broadway debut. I've done a lot of live things.
Sure.
But this is a very different. There's also an anticipation of these kinds of speeches that Murrow gives. Mm. And so I've had to work on them since August because as you get older, it gets harder to memorize things.
We will not walk in fear one of another. This is no time for men who oppose Senator McCarthy's methods to keep silent.
20 years ago, almost to the day you started filming this movie.
That's right.
It sounds like you've been living with the idea of doing this for a while.
We've been trying to make it into a play for a bit. And then it was harder and harder to figure out how. And then we kind of came up with an idea that was going back to what we originally done, because when we originally did this, it's kind of funny. When we originally were writing this, Good Night and Good Luck in 2004, we wrote it as a live TV show because we had done Failsafe as a live TV show.
Oh, right.
And then the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake, exposing thing came out, and CBS pulled the plug on us.
Wow.
And so I called up Grant and said, now we have to take out all the sort of the live elements and make it into a film. And so we changed it then. So the original draft of it was closer to a play.
Interesting. So you're actually just going back to
kind of back to that stuff.
That's great.
Because there's in a film you can cut from one scene to another. Right. You can be in another room, and in a live production or in a play, you have to find a way to get them from one room to another. So it's a little bit of that.
David Strathairn was fantastic in the film.
Oh my God.
What is it like to sort of age into that role?
When Grant and I wrote it the first time, we did a table reading where I was going to play Murrow. And this is in 2004 maybe. And I was directing the film, and so there's this moment as a director, not as an actor, but as a director, where you go, I'm not right for the part. And it's a funny thing. It's hard to do. You have to be able to step back and look at it and go, wow, I'm not right for this. I was too young in a weird way.
Yeah.
And David came in, and because it was sort of an emergency, I was going to bail out. I was going to play Fred Friendly, and he was going to do Murrow. And I said, do you want to do it? And we came to New York and met with him. He said, sure. We'd never heard him do it. And then he showed up, and he had like a long gray beard and gray hair. And I was like, have we made a terrible mistake? And he shaved and jet black his hair, and he puts a cigarette in his mouth, and all of a sudden we were like, we did okay. I actually, in doing this part now, I'm trying to rip him off of the things he did. You know what I mean? Because he was that good. And so 20 years later, I get a crack at it.
It's funny that this originally was conceived as sort of a live experience featuring George Clooney as Edward R. Murrow. It ended up not being that, and now 20 years later, we're actually getting maybe much closer to the original. Sometimes it takes a long time to get to the.
Yeah, well, that's that's the creative process. Sometimes takes a lot of turns.
What's it been like, sort of watching him go into the Murrow role, first of all, but also just preparing for this?
He has a lot of really long speeches. Really long speeches.
Yeah.
So he's literally just been like,
Studying
every day. It's like I'm this far and I'm working on it. But yeah, he's rightfully nervous. I'm nervous. I'm not even in it.
I rewatched the film.
Yes.
It does a beautiful job of capturing sort of the smallness of the TV production world at the time, right?
Absolutely.
There's so much close up. It's a lot of sort of quiet talking.
Right.
You're doing it at the Winter Garden, opening it up.
Oh my God, we're doing it at the Winter Garden?
It's a big theater.
So the studio they were in, the Studio 41, where CBS News was on the fourth floor of the Grand Central Terminal. It's the top of the terminal. So the actual studio there was much bigger than the stage of the Winter Garden. It's not how are we going to put this intimate film in the Winter Garden. It's we're telling this big piece of American history in the Winter Garden, and how do we embrace the scale of that? We are putting the television broadcast out on screens in the theater.
I just realized I've never seen this story in color.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's very interesting.
It's going to be in color on stage.
It's really, really strange when it's colorized. I mean that's and then when we send it out into the broadcast, when we do the live feed that become the broadcasts, it is this diminished imagery. It's this very sort of grainy, diminished imagery. We were just getting like they talk about the tube flickering.
Yeah.
In the text of, say, the Lights and Wires speech, the tube is flickering. It was amazing, and it was also sort of feeble. It's all very delicate. You know what I mean? Our republic is delicate. The technology is delicate. The public peace is delicate. It's all very delicate, and that's one of the things I think it's about too.
Would you remember the germ of this idea?
There was a time when there was a war in Iraq, and George had been speaking out on it and was getting a lot of grief in the press and all kinds of stuff. So that was so we wanted to write something, but we didn't want to write about that, so we wrote about this instead.
Sometimes the greatest art comes out of these tumultuous periods or experiences, right?
Absolutely.
What is it like to be digging into it now?
I think it's equally as powerful, the story of Murrow and his boys, but it's in this day and age. I mean, the world is so different now than it was then, but it still has something to say, and I think that's more of a testament to the idea that these pieces of history are worth learning and talking about and being entertained by, and so that's kind of what attracts me to this kind of stuff.
Do you like sort of telling something from a historic lens, but that has this sort of
Well, I think it's
urgency?
important because, what's the Mark Twain, it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Yeah.
We are constantly having to wage this battle against, for truth, right? Truth is the hard part. It's certainly, we're certainly fighting for that again. Holding truth to power. It's not something that, we had to do it, again, we had to do it during Vietnam, we had to do it during the Civil Rights Movement, we had to do it during the Women's Rights Movement. We've had all of these moments in time where, Watergate, go down the list of times where truth mattered. So it's not something new to us now, but it is a battle that has to be waged. It's not going to just automatically happen, right? Part of democracy, the reason it's the First Amendment, the very First Amendment, is because our right to free speech and our battle for free speech is preeminent. It is the most important part. I think it's important to remember, though, that this wasn't and isn't designed to be a civics lesson. That's not what it is designed to be. It's an entertainment. That's why we go backwards and look. We're not here to preach to people about, we really thought this is a story about us at our best as Americans when we hold our own feet to the fire for our own actions as opposed to someone else. And I think that that's a beautiful story.